Good afternoon, everybody. Hope you guys are doing well. And I know everybody's getting amped up for the football season since the Seahawks are just 2 days away now. But we got to sneak in a Mariners update here because we've hit another milestone in the season. 140 games down, 22 to go. And this last 10 game stretch, there was a little bit of a back to earth element to it, but it wasn't the disaster that it easily could have been. It came close to being a season derailing disaster. And there are some things that I'm really concerned about for these last 22 games, but the team did just enough to make you feel pretty good about where things are going. So, this page, by the way, the page that I'm on, the BB Ref page, does not have updates for yesterday's game yet, so don't worry about it. Doesn't really matter that much. We won yesterday 1-0, so it's not like the hitters did all that much to change any of their results. But these last 10 games, the offense cooled off a little bit. Still had some good moments, still had some good games, still performed overall. It's not like earlier in the season, quite. We're not there yet. And more than anything, the pitching got really, really brutal. And not in the sense that our guys were just getting shelled necessarily. They weren't. But everything is so hard for these pitchers right now. And it's one of these things where it's a very frustrating way to go down because it's one thing if your pitchers are just giving up 7, 8, 9 runs a game and your offense can't score enough to win. But this is more like we can't get strikeouts, we can't finish batters, we can't have easy innings. Every inning, our pitcher has to throw like 18 plus pitches. They can only go like 5 innings if they're lucky because they just can't get anything easy. Like, we're not seeing the 7 pitch innings. We're not seeing the quick innings that take like. Sometimes you have a half of an inning that feels like it takes 40 seconds. We're not getting that. We're getting a bunch of long innings that tire out our pitchers, and then we have to go to the bullpen that is having kind of the same problem. So everybody's getting tired. It feels like this whole pitching staff is gassed, and that's the problem to me. And it's also the thing that has me a little concerned as we go into these last 22 games. The good news is they were able to overcome those problems and still win enough games over these last 10 to be in a pretty decent spot. We did lose the division lead to Houston. I think right now it's by half a game, so that's whatever. But Houston's also kind of caught fire, so I don't know if you can really talk about catching them. But to talk about where the team is right now, it's just one of those things where it feels like everything just suddenly got hard during the streak of excellent play where we were really good for like 20, 30 games in a row, barely losing anything, and every loss felt like an accident. Everything was coming easy. And then all of a sudden, at some point over the last couple weeks, everything got hard. Too many walks, not enough strikeouts, can't get out of an inning quickly. Everything has to be some 8 pitch battle, leaving runners on in scoring position, not capitalizing on your opportunities, not giving the bullpen enough cushion to make sure that you have an insurmountable lead at the end of the game. Just little things like that. So it's not really an offensive thing, although I do think the offense has probably stepped back a little bit. Yesterday's game didn't help when you only score 1 run. Suarez finally got a day off, which, I mean, that's a relief, right? That's obviously something that he really needed. And his bat has kind of gone cold just in general, but I think that's just going to be the Suarez experience. He's going to have an average bat at best going forward, if you're talking about him next year especially. And you have him around because he's good on defense. And that's going to have to be good enough. And I'm okay with that. He's a third baseman. You need a good defensive third baseman. Most third basemen aren't that good offensively. I know it's not as bad as it used to be. I remember back in the day when there were like 2 good offensive third basemen in the whole league. So I can live with that, I guess. But overall, offensively, things are looking fairly good. Julio's still playing fairly well. He's obviously cooled off a little bit, but still playing well. Teoscar's really found the stroke. JP is still absolutely killing it. 132 ops plus on JP right now, by the way. Absolutely insane that we're here. Cal's been good. Even France has been a little bit better. Again, the only guy who's really just hit a brick wall offensively is Suarez and I guess Caballero. But Caballero's not even really here for his bat anyway. He's here for his base running, which hasn't exactly been sterling lately either while we're here, and his defense. Everybody else doing pretty much fine. It's not the slaughter that it was turning into at some points during the big winning streaks, the two 8-game winning streaks. And we're getting Kelnick back, should be in a few days here. I think in 3 days, maybe 2, we're getting Kelnick back. So, offense, the only concern really that I have offensively is that Tom Murphy, I don't know what's going on with him. He was only supposed to be gone a little while, and now he's not even in rehabbing yet. So, are we not going to have him? And if we're not going to have Tom Murphy, that's a big problem because Brian O'Keefe is a complete black hole on offense. He's basically a walking out. He's a walking strikeout, walking double play guy. However you want to put it, he's useless. So we don't have a real backup catcher. So there are going to be a few games the rest of the way until Murphy gets back where we just have to deal with a really, really useless bat in the lineup on day games because Cal can't play every game. When the playoffs come around, hopefully that's not as big of a problem, but even then, you got to say, Cal is... I mean, by the way, Cal's been playing great behind the plate as well. I want to give him a shout out there because he wasn't throwing out base runners earlier this year. Now he is. You can tell Cal is just playing in constant pain. So you really would like the opportunity to give him some time off, the opportunity for him to take days off and not have it cripple your offense. So what I'm trying to say is hurry back Tom Murphy. But, Canzone and Rojas, they've been roller coasters, but they are making positive contributions to this team. I like what Dylan Moore's doing. Rojas had a really bad game yesterday, but on the whole, he's been pretty good. So, offensively, there have been a couple of bad games, a couple of not-so-good games, some bad moments, but it's producing like an MLB-level team. That's all you can really ask for, especially given where we were at one point where we just couldn't score at all. The real concern that I have has to do with this pitching staff. It feels like the starters are tired. That's how I would put it. The starting rotation of this team is tired. You lose Robbie Ray, you lose Marco, and you lose, I guess you could say Hancock as well. So that's part of it, but obviously you still have your 5 guys right now. Castillo, Gilbert, Kirby, Miller, Wu. I just feel like all of them have very little gas left. You're not seeing these guys dominating anybody. The closest we've gotten to that might be Gilbert. Gilbert has had moments of dominance recently, but even in the game against the Reds a couple days ago, everything's a chore. He can't just have 1, 2, 3 innings where he goes out, pitches for 90 seconds, and he's back in the dugout. No, it's like 3-2 counts constantly. People drawing long walks. Foul, 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 and boom, you get to the 5th inning, and he's already pushing near 100 pitches. Castillo, even Kirby. Like, Kirby has not really looked like himself his last few starts. And maybe it's because he's so young and this is his first year throwing this many innings. Maybe he's just kind of hitting the wall. And Logan obviously went through this kind of last year, so that's why we are not seeing the wall as much with him, although maybe we're starting to see it. I'm going to need a few more starts. But Wu, I'm not seeing a whole lot from him. And Miller, talk about skating by. Like, Miller had that one start against the Reds where I swear he was pitching like a pitcher who gave up 10-plus runs. Somehow he got out of there giving up, like, what was it, 2? We still lost the game, by the way, but it wasn't even his fault. But every inning, multiple base runners throwing 20, 25 pitches in an inning. Walking back, everything is just so hard for this pitching staff. Nothing, they don't have any of those go-to shutout pitches. Like, you're not getting wood on this one. You're just going to go down. So I feel like they're worn out. And the bullpen, I kind of feel like we're seeing something similar. The only guy in the bullpen, crazy enough, who I really have a good feeling about at the moment, and I'm not talking about stats, obviously, because some guys have better stats than this guy, but the only guy who right now makes me feel good is Matt Brash. Like Matt Brash, when he goes out there right now, I'm feeling really good about his ability to do the job. But everyone else has shown, at the very least, some shakiness. Munoz, Topa, Spear, Saucedo, Campbell. I mean, Campbell's not a great pitcher anyway. He's okay. Not to say I'm saying anything negative about these guys necessarily, because guys like Campbell and Thornton have actually been really good for us. I'm just saying that if it comes down to a huge situation at the end of a close game that we have to win, the only guy who I really feel good about right now, and I can't believe we're here, is Matt Brash, because he's been pretty shut down lately. But feels like these bullpen guys, we've just put too many miles on them. I don't know. And some of these guys don't have that many miles on them. In some cases, by the way, it's probably they're not that good, and they are starting to revert a little bit, because some of these guys have pitched amazing this year. Like Topa's numbers this year are out of sight. Campbell's numbers this year have been great. Thornton's numbers, not that these guys have pitched a ton, but they pitched a decent amount. Maybe they're just not as good as those numbers indicate, and it was time for them to revert. But some of these guys just feel like they're either out of gas, or they're not playing. They don't have their stuff. Like Munoz. I mean, Munoz, it's pretty obvious. His slider is completely out of control right now. He goes out there, that slider could be going any which way, and he has no control over it. It's a mess right now. It's a little bit of a mess with Munoz, just to single out that one particular player. Not to say he's pitching bad overall, but that slider, man. That slider is really a problem. So, looking at this bullpen, it's just hard to have a lot of faith in anybody right now. Like, we tried to pick up the guy from the Angels, so far not really working. And we're trying the Luke Weaver thing, also not working. Well, that one's not working at all so far. So, I don't really know what we do there. There's not anything you can do. Some people are going to say we shouldn't have traded Sewald, but the guys we had should have been good enough. And right now they're just not pitching like it. And I'm hoping it's just a phase. Bullpens can be like that in Major League Baseball, where a bullpen can randomly become really good for a month and randomly become really bad for a month. So maybe we're just going through one of those phases where there are going to be blown games and there's nothing you can do about it. But it's a really bad time because our starters can't get through 6 innings without laboring like crazy. Like Castillo did it yesterday, but he needed almost 110 pitches to do it. It was so hard for him to get through 6. So we need the bullpen, and the bullpen has... It's not the shutdown unit that it was at one point. Let's put it like that. It's not the shutdown unit that we had in our heads at one point. So there's not really anything you can do about it right now, but we need Munoz to find the slider. We need Topa and Brash to be as good as they've typically been. I know Topa gave up the 3-run shot to the Reds, but overall he's been really good. And you just got to hope that things shake out. You got to hope that somebody like an Isaiah Campbell can actually step up in a big moment, because we're probably going to need him. There's going to come a time during these next 22 games where we need him to get a big closeout inning, need him to deliver. But that's really all I can say. It was a decent 10-game stretch. It was a little deflating. We lost a couple games we absolutely should have won. That second Reds loss was terrible. And that being said, we did enough to be in the conversation. Like, you go look at the schedule right now, not going to be easy. We need a win today against Tampa because we've got the big pitching advantage. Need to find a way to win today. And then you can maybe afford to drop a couple against Tampa with your worst pitchers. Then you really need to take care of the Angels and Oakland, because in the middle of that you have the Dodgers. So you know you're going to lose a couple, because 2 of your pitchers against the Dodgers are Wu and Miller. Wu and Miller against the Dodgers right now is no bueno. You got to prepare to lose those games pretty much every time. So you got to take care of business against the Angels and the Athletics. And Texas, I mean, here's the thing. Texas right now is in a complete free fall, but you're going to have to be the team that cuts off their head, it looks like. Texas is not going to let another team cut their own head off. You play them 7 times in the last 10 games. They're playing awful baseball right now, blowing games left and right. But you're going to have to be the team that ends it, because there's no way they're going to be eliminated by the time you start playing them in late September. So that's kind of the scary part here. You need to have a cushion, and then you actually need to let the cushion preserve itself. I'm not even talking about Houston. I'm talking about Texas. We'll worry about Houston later. All right, that's it. See you guys later. Go Mariners. Fun stuff, but it's going to be close.